Hi guys, this is Mrs. Denton. I'm going to do an intro to Scatterplots today, and we're going to be starting Chapter 7, Data Analysis and Displays. So some of this material may be review, some of it may be totally new material. So go ahead and grab you some notebook paper and let's take some notes. You've got some vocabulary and things that you want to write down. Remember, you can always pause the video if you need to. First, we're going to say, what is a scatter plot? A scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables. So we're talking about a relationship, and we've got two variables that we're going to look at. All data values are graphed on a coordinate plane with one variable on the x-axis and one variable on the y-axis. So we're going to be using a graph to show the relationship between these two variables, our x and our y. The relationship between two variables is also called a correlation. So you will start hearing that word in math, and basically it means the relationship between two variables. So if we ask what type of correlation, you're going to be able to describe that. Two variables can have a positive correlation, a negative correlation, or no correlation. So if they have a positive relationship, you're going to see a connection, a negative relationship, or if there's no relationship or correlation, we're going to talk about what that looks like as well. Okay, we've got three graphs here we're going to take a look at. Look at the one on your left. This is an example of a positive correlation. If you notice, as you move from left to right, or as you move, yes, on the graph, you can see that it is increasing, okay? So as our x value is increasing, our y value is increasing as well. So there's a positive trend occurring. So we can say when one variable has high values, the other one has high values as well. When one variable has low values, the other one has low values. If I were looking at this point right here, okay, so as x is increasing, y is increasing as well. Okay, let's look at the one in the middle, and you can kind of see that there's a trend going on here. There's a line, and you notice that it is decreasing this time. So as x is increasing, y is decreasing. We are going to say that that's a negative correlation, and that happens when one variable has high values, the other variable has low values. So as our x is increasing, our y is decreasing. When one variable has a low value, the other has a high value. And our last example over here, we're kind of all over the place. Notice that there's not really a way I can put a line through any of these. So in this last example, we say there is no correlation. No correlation or no relationship happens when there's no predictable pattern. We're not increasing, we're not decreasing. There's not a relationship or pattern between the two variables x and y. In strong positive or negative correlations, the points closely form a line. Now, keyword here, closely form a line. In a weak positive or negative correlation, the points loosely cluster around where the line would be. So, keyword there, loosely. So weak, they're going to be loosely clustered. Strong, they're going to be closely forming a line. Okay, we've got some examples down here at the bottom. You can see this first one on the left. Those are closely forming a line. Here, you could put a line there, but notice they are loosely clustered around the line. So we have a weak negative, and we have an example of a strong positive. So these are just examples. You could also have a strong negative and a weak positive as well. Predicting and explaining correlations. What would you expect the correlation to be between outside temperature and ice cream sales? So let's think about these two variables here, outside temp and ice cream sales. Now you can ask yourself which one depends on the other or if there's a relationship between the two. But typically when it is warmer and hot temperatures, there are more ice cream sales occurring. So if we were thinking about that, as the temp is increasing or going up, the ice cream sales are probably going up as well. So if we have that type of relationship, then we're going to see a positive correlation. So as one variable is increasing, the other variable is also increasing. So if we were to graph that, think about the direction that our points would occur in for our x and y. What would you expect the correlation to be between the first letter of a student's last name and the length of their hair? So first letter of a student's last name is one variable, and length of their hair. Now let's think about this situation. Does the first letter of your last name have any indication of how long your hair would be? Are those two variables even related? Is there a relationship going on there? These two variables are not related in any way. So if I were to graph these two variables, I would probably have points all over that coordinate plane. There would definitely be no correlation or no relationship between the first letter of a student's last name and the length of their hair. What would you expect the correlation to be between the number of assignments a student has failed to turn in and his or her grade in that class? So we're looking at the number of assignments a student has failed to turn in and his or her grade in that class. Now let's think about this relationship. If we're looking at the number of assignments a student has failed to turn in, let's say that variable is increasing, then what would happen to his or her grade in that class? Would your grade increase as well as you have more and more missing work, or would your grade decrease? Definitely decrease. So we have variables going in the opposite situation here. Looking at this relationship, as one variable is increasing, the other variable is decreasing. So we can talk about that type of relationship if we were to graph it, forming a negative correlation. So as the number of assignments the student does not turn in gets higher, his or her grade will get lower, forming a negative correlation if we were to graph that. Okay, our last slide here says, what type of correlation do the following scatter plots show? Give an example of two variables that might be related in the way shown in each scatter plot. Okay, starting at the one on the left, you can notice all the points there are scattered about the coordinate plane. They're in all different coordinates. Some are even on an axis. Is there any type of correlation you see occurring in this first graph? No, no correlation. They're all over the place. Two variables that might be related in this way. An example here is height and birth month. Are those in any way related? No, there was no correlation, no relationship between those two variables. The middle graph, do you see a trend or a line occurring there that they could be loosely based around? Okay, if you noticed, we could plot a line and it would be in the form of a decreasing line or a negative correlation. Two variables that might be related in this way, example, number of F's and time spent on homework. The less time you spend on homework, the greater number of F's you will receive. And the last graph, if I were to attempt to see a correlation there, I would say that that is positive. An example in this situation, time spent practicing and skill level. That could be applicable to any type of skill. The more you practice, the better you will be.